Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports, live from our Pontchartrain Productions studios. I'm your host, Eric Asher, and over the next hour we'll cover all the home teams: Saints, Pelicans, LSU Tulane football, also again college baseball with so many teams participating. Got 4 teams for Louisiana participating. Delgado just finished their run in the Junior College World Series. We'll touch on that as well. NBA Finals start tonight. Man, so much on our plate today. And of course, to break it down for us, one of the best we have here in the city. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports joins us on the program. Sean, how are you, bud?
Doing fantastic. New month.
Yep.
Ready to get rolling here. With interesting stretch up ahead with a lot of different teams doing different things. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Good time.
Before we get started, I don't know how many of you folks have been checking out Sean's podcast through Fox 8. Of course, all their great programming. And of course, he's got an award-winning blog as well. Why don't you tell us all about it?
Yeah, well, that podcast has kind of become my baby, so to speak,
right.
Just because we're really trying to get into that space, just because just over the last couple of years, how much that space has really grown and really has really just kind of developed and gotten much more sophisticated. So we're trying to get into that space quite a bit. It's the Fox 8 Overtime podcast. You can go to the Fox 8 Overtime YouTube channel, subscribe, like, share, wherever you get your podcast. Right now, we're probably averaging about 1 or 2 a week. We're going to get those numbers up eventually. Vasilios Nicolau, my producer, and I, he and I have been tinkering with some things. We got a new look to the show right now, which is something that we were hoping for. And there's still going to be some more tweaks, but the response has been fantastic. Keep them coming. It's just a chance to breathe a little bit, you know, when you're talking sports. It's so much more than just a 25-second soundbite that you might get on a sportscast or a show. This is a little more in depth. Get to talk things out a little bit, breathe a little bit, take some questions. But not unlike what you do with the radio. So I've really enjoyed it. So that's the podcast. My At the Further Review blog is still around. Check that out on the fox8live.com or the Final Play app. And then of course right now, Tuesday, Fox 8 Overtime show at 10:35. Thursday, the Final Bet at 10:35, and then Sunday, the Final Play. 10:35, so we still keep a pretty full plate, even though it's the quote-unquote off season.
Is there an off season in the NFL? I don't think so. Before we get started, Sean is on the committee for, again, the Saints Hall of Fame. He's one of the voters, and there was there are new inductees that were announced this morning. Sean, tell us about it.
Yes. So the player getting in is Jabari Greer. We voted him in a couple of months back. Fantastic option, fantastic player. probably, if you think back to 2009, maybe one of the more underrated players on that team. He had joined the Saints that year as a free agent. He was one of the best free agent pickups. If you really go and stack it up, he's up in the top 5 or top 10 in terms of free agent pickups this organization has ever had. Spent 5 years with the club. Was fantastic to deal with. I mean, just A-plus character person.
And a lockdown corner.
just fantastic to deal with. Of course, he and Tracy Porter were able to do great things that year back in 2009. And then the Joe Giamelli are two guys that, if you're in the TV business, which I am in, these are two old school photographers, but they were fantastic. Peretti and Parkinson, these guys were fantastic. Peretti worked at WDSU. Bob Parkinson worked at WWL. I was at WWL when Bob Parkinson was there. He was Jim Henderson's guy forever. He was Jim Henderson's right-hand man forever. And I have been on the committee now out of 7-8 years. And the year they were nominated, I have been voting for them every year since because I didn't want them to get lost in the discussion of the Joe Giamelli Award. And I voted for them over the last 5 or 6 years. Every year I give the same speech every year because I just even years I didn't think that they were going to win, they've been on the ballot for a while now. But I tell people this all the time. There was a time where local TV was king. Now you can't. Now we all just do this, right? But back in those days, those cameras were heavy. Those cameras were they weren't always dealing with tape. They were dealing with deck to deck sometimes. They were dealing with reel to reel, those types of things. But they were the best at what they did. And if you watch old school NFL films tapes. You guys watch them on NFL Network, whatever the case may be. I love on a Saturday in July just watching it from sun up to sundown. A lot of their footage is there. So those guys, very, very deserving. I was so happy. I was finally able to convince the group that they were worthy of the Joe Giamelli Award. So Jabari Greer, Peretti, and Park. 3 very deserving members of the Saints Hall of Fame.
I don't want to dive too deep in this, but for those that have no idea what the committee, who the committee is, what the committee is made up of, why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, we have, I think we're at about 18 or 19 members. We meet once a year. We discuss, we're able to nominate based off of where those players are based off their career. I think it's 3 years. They have to be out of the league to get a nomination. Committee it's always we all get together. We meet up at a restaurant. We talk things out. Some years it's very easy. The debate is very simple. Some years it's requires a little more debate. I love being on it. Juan Kincaid and myself, we both represent Fox 8. Fletcher Magrick from WDSU. Jim Henderson's still on it, even though he's actually a Joe Giamelli Award winner himself. Ken Trahan does a phenomenal job organizing it, running it. Ed Daniels is on it as well. Ro Brown, Renee Nato, AJ Giardina from Biloxi. I am forgetting names. Brett Martell. I'm forgetting names, but there's a good mix of guys that have been there for a while. Guys that are somewhat new school, guys somewhat in the middle, I guess maybe like
guys that know the history.
Guys that know the history, because there are some names on there. There are some names on there that have been on there a while that the old guards saw play that I remember, but I don't necessarily, they're not at the top of your mind in terms of just highlight reels and things they contributed on the football field. So we talk it out, we vote it out. And this year, there were some fantastic nominees. And like I said a couple of years ago, there's some obvious names from the 09 Golden Era run. And there's some ones that are kind of maybe not quite as obvious. And those become your best debates as far as who gets in, because do we want to get everybody in? Where do we draw the line in terms of who is worthy, who is not worthy? And this year, Jabari Greer rose to the top, and I think he's more than deserving to get in the Hall.
I guess number 9 will be out of the league 3 years now next year, right? So he might be a first ballot guy.
I'm going to say there's a strong chance that happens. I'll just leave it at that.
He might be a first ballot guy.
He might be a first ballot guy. He might. We'll see.
He might be a first ballot guy with the other Hall of Fame as well.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. All right. Rookie mini camp, OTAs. People know how I feel about it. It is what it is. It's shorts and T-shirts. It's not football. But it is. And Sean, you and I have talked about this on the radio show. It's needed and it's necessary, and it's not just that. It is about. This is where I believe you build championship teams. Okay, in the off season. Okay, we're getting together, camaraderie, working out together. And of course, being at that facility for the young guys, learning how to practice, understanding, again, what you have to learn in the classroom and bringing that to the practice field. There's so many little idiosyncrasies that go along with that are more than just what the media sees, the fans see when they run around with shells and T-shirts, or again, helmets and T-shirts and shorts. It's really about the behind-the-scenes stuff and the team building when you talk about OTAs, mini camp, and also rookie mini camp.
It's just to start repping things out. I mean, football, there's so many different things happening on every play. Forget a quarter or a half. On every play, there are so many different things that happen on each and every play. So many subtleties, so many checks, so many adjustments, so many things you have to communicate, and not all language is the same.
That's true.
You just start talking things out, and you just start repping things out, and you may have a vision of how you want things to go when you talk about it, but when you get on the field, it maybe feels a different way, so you talk about it again. This is where you iron those things out.
I agree.
And you start ironing those things out, and then it builds and builds and builds. And this year, obviously, there's a new juice, there's new excitement because they have a new starting quarterback.
Right.
So, and it's been fascinating to watch him kind of incorporate himself into a new organization, not trying too hard to, I'm the guy, but you can really feel his presence just in the two practices that we've seen in Derek Carr, and you can feel how much that has almost settled the organization down a little bit. It has calmed things a little bit and has put a level of, I hate the word comfort, but it's put them at ease a little bit because they have needed this for so long. And when you had it for so long and you don't have it just for a window of 2 years to get it again, it's like you wrap your arms around it. It's like, yes, this is what we're used to. This is what we want. And you just feel it even though it's unspoken, because you can kind of feel the energy, the vibe has certainly shifted in that regard, and I think that has radiated throughout the entire organization. And to me, the person it impacts the most is the head coach. I've said this probably 10 times already, just throughout different shows and on different outlets. There is a quiet confidence brewing, a quiet comfortability in his own skin brewing with head coach Dennis Allen, and I think that's important to see.
I think they did really well for the money that they had, in trying to, what Loomis and Kai Harley do every year, which again is, renegotiate deals or, and use that fifth year, use the options to be able to open up cap room. I think they did a really good deal in filling holes in free agency, and on paper, I like the draft. Now, again, we'll see a lot of what's going on there. New coaching staff as well. So you've had some changes here.
Significant changes. There's quite an overhaul of the defensive staff.
And the defensive line.
And you have a defensive head coach. You have a new defensive line coach. You have, a couple holdovers from the previous staff, although it's all the same staff. But, a new defensive coordinator. So you're talking about a significant movement with significant coaches, and you got to get on the field together. Football is not a hope to get better. It's you got to get on the field and do the work. There's no substitute for it, and I think you're seeing from the response. Now, I think there could be a few more, but for the most part, the response has been good just in terms of attendance. Last week they only missed 9. This week they missed 15.
But that's coming off of a holiday
weekend, and we can't see the other two practices. We don't know if they made it or not. So, but I think overall there is a noticeable difference from this year to last year. Last year, the head coach was in a weird, I don't say weird, but he was playing a role as head coach on a team where he'd been a defensive coordinator for the last 6 years, and I still don't think he was quite comfortable then stepping out in front. I mean, he learned it about mid-season. This year, he's much more comfortable stepping out in front.
One of the things I love about having you on my programs is, again, you do a lot of things that I used to do when I was in the locker room. You looking for the body language. You feel the vibe of what's going on. Then I asked you this question yesterday on the radio show. What's the vibe of this locker room early in the off-season workouts? What you've been able to see, compare and contrast to other years you've been there. You've been in that locker room since 2009. Go ahead.
Positive. There's a genuine positivity brewing. There is a genuine acceptance of the new reality with the new quarterback, and that acceptance is this is for the better. This is for the better. And I think that's where this locker room stands. And there is I've used the term earlier, there is a quiet confidence brewing. Eric, why shouldn't they be confident right now? I feel like you stack up the rosters, which they have, and I've spoken to several people within the organization. You stack up the rosters, you give the head coach the one thing that he was missing, which was a franchise quarterback that was an upgrade. Then you look at the NFC South. Then you look, I don't use the word easy when it comes to schedules.
Right.
I call it manageable.
Yes.
Why shouldn't they be confident? Now, there's some still things there's still little areas I think a couple things have to come together to get where you truly want to go.
Right.
And there are a few depth pieces that I'm still a little concerned with. But for June 1st, which is where we're taping this right now, I just think it's a good vibe and it's a positive vibe around the team.
And throw in the new coaching staff as well. His coaching staff, that again is not just holdovers from the Peyton era. These are guys that he truly wanted on this team.
Yeah, I said it really back when they made the trade of the former head coach, and then they got Derek Carr. Now, my immediate response was, this is now Dennis Allen's team. This is for sure, for the first time since he got the job, this is truly Dennis Allen's team. Last year, it was that weird energy with former head coach gone, but he was kind of over, like the ghost of him was still kind of there. There was an awkward energy. He was in the media doing TV. There was still there was that weird storyline of him possibly coming back, which was just a mess. And then once the organization got that deal done and he was basically out of their lives, everyone could take a deep breath, exhale, and then go. And they'd go with the new reality of the New Orleans Saints.
I think you make a great point, comfortable in his own skin, because again, you reach out for a guy like John Gruden, who's been kind of blackballed by the NFL, who's an offensive genius, who understands Derek Carr because he had him in Las Vegas, and you bring him in to try to maybe be a bridge between, the Vegas scheme and the New Orleans scheme, and maybe taking ideas from a guy who, again, is on the same par as Sean Payton in terms of, again, just an offensive guru. Your thoughts on that? I love it. I think it shows a lot about Dennis Allen, wanting to do that. What are your thoughts?
I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I thought, what could it really hurt?
Does it?
What could it really hurt? At most, he comes in, you don't like anything, he moves on, and you go on about your day. At best, he gives you a bunch of ideas, you incorporate into what you're doing, and you go with it. I think that was as much for Pete Carmichael as it was for Derek Carr.
I agree.
Just in terms of, hey, this is what he likes to do in certain situations, this is where he's at, this is the language we used. You don't adopt everything that he requests, but you incorporate a few things into what you're trying to do, and hopefully you get a better product as a result. There's no denying Derek Carr was at his best in his NFL career when John Gruden was his head coach. Why not? Why not? He comes in for a couple days. I know he was asked about backlash. There really was no backlash.
No.
I mean, look, I understand the off-the-field stuff certainly was what it was, but for his football team, for the product on the football field, I thought this was a great move by Dennis Allen to have the foresight to say, hey, let's. It shows they're trying to do everything to improve the product last year that took a dip, and that's what a head coach is supposed to do. That's what he's paid to do. Because if he doesn't do it, guess what? He's not going to be the head coach much longer.
That's a great point. And to feel comfortable enough to be able to bring in a former head coach, the former head coach of, again, your starting quarterback, all those things. I really, again, I think it shows a lot in the growth of Dennis Allen.
And I think that's going to be a theme this season. Right. That he's not Peyton.
Right.
He doesn't have that personality. But I think in his own way, you're going to see a more confident, more comfortable, and just basically growth in the head coach of Dennis Allen.
I agree. And like, again, the comfort level of having your coaches instead of, again, guys you've been with and were the other guy's guy. This is your free agent class. This is your rookie class. And this is your quarterback. So I think a lot of things, again, are looking up for Dennis Allen. Now he's got to get it done on the field. All right, a lot of scuttlebutt about Jameis Winston all of a sudden on the podcasting front. A lot of guys writing about, again, that Saints should trade Jameis Winston to the Raiders or to another team that is looking for a guy that has been a starter. I am torn, On one hand, I see the merit in it. On the other hand, you need two quarterbacks in the NFL, in today's NFL, because of the possibility of injury. Now, I know that for the most part, Carr has been injury-free through his career.
You never know.
But you never know.
Right.
So do you take a chance and let him go, have a Jake Haener, or bring in another guy that is, again, a perennial backup in the league? We've seen the Saints kind of cycle through those guys over the last few years. Or do you stay with him for this year and then groom Haener for the backup role for next year?
Yeah, I think a lot of that would depend on if you get a call,
Right.
I don't see the Saints putting feelers out. Hey, we got this guy if you're interested.
Right.
I think, though, I mean, there are going to be teams that are going to, at some point, even, who knows, right now or relatively
Right.
soon, or at some point in the season or preseason, that may need a player that's got 80 career starts and has won football games in the NFL and has, although he's a little inconsistent, a little up and down, a little bit of a roller coaster, I think he can, play quarterback in the NFL, and that being Jameis Winston. So, if you get a call, and I'll just throw something, if a guy calls with an offer for a third-round pick or something like
Right.
that, I mean, if you're the Saints, you'd be doing yourself a disservice by not listening. In saying that, I am not convinced that Jameis Winston's the starter. I love him as a backup.
Right.
I love him in this role as a backup for all the reasons I just said.
Right.
A guy that's played football, a lot of football, still relatively young. We talked to him on Tuesday, has accepted his current role, which is not always easy to do. I think he's pretty realistic about his health. I don't think he's 100% yet, at least it's kind of the vibe I picked up from him. And it seems like him and Carr have similar outgoing personalities, which I think has kind of, if there was any tension, you wouldn't see it. And I think that's really any fear of that was gone very quickly. So I think he's made some plays on the field early in OTAs, a couple nice throws on Tuesday. But I think ultimately, if no deal materializes, so be it. You got you know there's this tier of quarterback in the NFL, high-end backup spot starter that I think eventually Jameis is going to develop into that role. We saw it last year with Andy Dalton. Now look, previous year they had a chance to go back to Jameis and they stuck with Andy Dalton.
Yes.
I don't know how those dynamics play out, but nonetheless, I don't have a problem with Jameis Winston being your backup to Derek Carr, doing all the things that he can do well, helping out in the meeting rooms, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But if you get a call for from a desperate team needing and willing to offer you quite a haul for Jameis Winston, I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice to not do it. And then that scenario you played out, here's the thing. You forget, they still have Taysom Hill.
Yeah,
they still have Taysom Hill. So in that scenario, you have the bonus in number 7.
You do. I do want to ask you about the Ryan Herman. Of course, he was in charge of the analytics research. It was reported by Jeff Duncan yesterday that he was let go. I found it, and look, sometimes I got to take my emotions back, right? Okay, when it comes to Sean Payton, because Payton's constantly squawking in the background, and again, a lot of the things that you see that have happened with this team over the last few years is a byproduct of him not doing his damn job. Okay, the first thing he wants to do is compare the analytics at Denver to New Orleans. Okay, but this guy controlled everything on the football side. So if the analytics were down in New Orleans, if they weren't where they were supposed to be, look in the mirror, Sean Payton. I mean, don't walk into Denver and talk about how great the analytics are, and at the end of the day, again, this guy ends up again. I guess he must have came in with Ireland from Miami, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Payton knew what analytics was before Ireland got here.
He didn't. And honestly, I'd be very curious to know the full backstory on that. Maybe I don't know if there's more non-football related stuff. I don't know. Family, whatever. I don't know what the case may be with that one. It kind of caught me off guard because I could have swore I saw him at the facility one of the days we were out there at OTAs. That did catch me off guard. In regards to the former head coach, and you notice I've referred to him as the former head coach quite a few times. No one had more control inside of one organization for that long a stretch than the former head coach, other than maybe Bill Belichick with New England. That's all nonsense. And look, Peyton had such a "I'm doing it my way" philosophy, and it dominated every single aspect of the building, to the point of like the color of the paint on the banners in the Superdome, that kind of stuff. That's how much his influence mattered.
Micromanager at his best.
And no one else. And honestly, a lot of his impulses, his whatever you want to call it, his itch for control, it put them in a lot of dicey situations that he never got full criticism for. And that's why I always push back against the criticism of DA last year, because I tried to remind people as much as I can, the former head coach had as much to do with this as anyone else, because he left them with a lot of his moves have basically left them with this, and this is what they had to deal with.
100%.
So as far as that goes, I laughed at it when I heard it. Okay, go ahead, enjoy the Mile City with your new analytics program. As far as the Saints, though, it's an important hire, whoever they bring in.
I agree with you.
Because they have really embraced it over the years. So, and for all accounts, I thought he was doing a pretty decent job. So I wonder who's next in line or who they're going to bring in for that.
And it is today's NFL. It really is today's sports. Analytics are a big part of that. And if you're not on board, you're going to get left behind. It's just the way it is.
It is. And honestly, you've got to embrace it. And there's still some old school left in the NFL that may think it's foolish. But what it does is it allows you to decide issues before they happen based off, I guess, math and analytics, as opposed to on the fly in the heat of the moment with play clock rolling down. What do you decide? I think that's where it really it eliminates the human error before, or the chaos of an actual game before. You already know going in, given a situation, what has been decided based off of your game planning, and within that game planning is the analytical approach. It's not everything, but it is an important part of the process.
All right, people are going to be very upset if I don't ask you this question, but I'm going to ask the question anyway.
What we got?
Who has stuck out to you in OTAs?
Okay, so it has been 2 weeks, and I tell everyone, don't fall in love with the May/June superstar.
Thank you.
So that's my preamble. That's my warning. So it's been, because it's easy to follow the ball, it's going to be Chris Olave, and it's going to be Rashid Shaheed, the two receivers that have been there. They seem to be on the same page, at least enough of the time that I've been watching, to be on the same page with new starting quarterback Derek Carr. Rashid Shaheed had 4 catches last week, Tuesday. Chris Olave had 2. I think the week before Olave had 1. The week before Olave had 3, including that big deep ball. Rashid Shaheed had a big deep ball. But I think the story has been, and again, we don't know what goes on inside the meetings, but at least from my eyes, I think the quick comfort with Derek Carr. It seems that, I don't know if they're just communicating, and maybe they're just they're happen to be on the same page right now. Maybe it's beginner's luck. I don't know. But I was expecting a few more throws in the dirt. Expecting a few more, a guy turns left and he's throwing right. Guy cuts a route short, he's throwing deep. Hadn't happened yet, at least not when we've seen it.
Right.
So I think the learning curve, at least in that regard, or in my eyes, to me, is the most positive development. But they can still have a long way to go, guys, because you don't have Taysom, you don't have Alvin, you don't have Michael Thomas. Like, there's a long way to go.
Right.
But that has certainly been good to see. And the other newsworthy thing is Alontae Taylor playing nickel, in my opinion.
What do you think about this? To me, I thought I knew they brought him in because of Gardner Johnson. That was the vision here. But watching him last year, I thought maybe if he didn't play corner, safety would be his position.
Yeah. What it shows is, it's not a bad thing. What it shows is they want him on the field. They want him on the field, and the only way to know if he's ready to play that position is to let him rep it out. He's never really done it. He's been pretty open about his frustration as far as not getting it quickly. But come on, it's only been 2 weeks of OTAs. It's going to take some time. And last week he was playing outside, as far as I was able to see. So it's going to take some time. They're trying it out. This is the time to tinker with stuff like that. But to me, if it's obvious he's not a nickel, don't play him there.
Right.
Play him on the outside, and if he doesn't get quite as many reps, so be it. Let him compete with Paulson and Debo, and you just move Bradley Roby to the inside. That's where he goes with Alontae Taylor. But it's not a bad thing to try him there, because I think it shows they want to get him on the field, because he's quite a bit younger than Bradley Roby, and he was a second-round pick. You want this guy to play him. Last year when he played well.
Oh, he did.
He was fearless.
Right.
So, but I do think he was fearless because he was confident in his position. I don't think he's quite as confident in nickel right now.
Interesting pickup this week, a guy that I really liked with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Jesse James, tight end. Talk about him.
Well, they added to the tight end room, and they added Vargas, the fullback, as well, which is interesting because maybe they get a little competition for Adam Prentice, the other fullback. They still use fullbacks. But Jesse James's case, obviously, he's a noticeable name. Went to Penn State, had some good years with Big Ben.
He did.
At Pittsburgh, had an injury last year, I believe. Was it in Chicago or Cleveland? I'm losing my teams there, because he's been a little bit of a journeyman since he left.
Since then, yes.
Since he left Pittsburgh. I'm sure it's a minimal deal. You can certainly add a veteran to that group. He's 6'7", 260, but he's not a downfield, run the seam, run the 7 route. He is an underneath type player. He's going to block. Can't hurt to bring him in. Not a bad player. Still young, not young, but still can play. Still got some football left in him. So I think it was a a decent signing for late May, early June. We'll see if it matriculates into anything.
Saints still have stuff about 12, 13 million after they have to pay their rookies left. You anticipate them being shopping a bit before they go into training camp.
Well, they'll always be looking, and the name everyone keeps throwing out there is Hunter Renfrow. I could certainly see them having interest,
right?
Because he is a different type of slot receiver than the Michael Thomas style of slot receiver. But nonetheless, he's a guy that can create space in the first and second level. So yeah, I could see them having interest. It would come down to cost. It would come down to compensation. Obviously, he has a great rapport with Derek Carr, as a few of those guys seem to have that they brought in. So yeah, I could certainly see them looking down that avenue or other avenues, depending on what could pop loose. Maybe another defensive end at some point could become available, or may still be available to take a look at. I know June 1st is a big day, just in terms of now we're in a different part, kind of the back half of the quote-unquote NFL calendar, so you can make certain moves and it helps you from a cap perspective. So I don't think they're done tinkering, but if they get Renfrow, that's one thing. But I don't know if there's a major blockbuster move they're making.
You mentioned post June 1st, a lot of players being released again because they can amortize that dead money over 2 seasons instead of 1.
Yeah.
So this is a big day in the NFL. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Pelicans. Then we're going to jump into some college baseball as well as college football. Big debate right now in the SEC at the SEC meetings in Destin right now. Will the SEC go with 9 games within conference, 8 games within conference? We'll get into that. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Our guest today, Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Sean Fazende of Fox 8 Sports, our guest on the panel today. All right, let's go to Pelicans. The big, I don't know if it's big news because, Sean, you and I talked about it on the radio show yesterday. Christian Clark is a great writer for the PICU and does a great job with the Pelicans. He really does. He really does. He had a very vague article yesterday about, actually 2 days ago, about, again, changings and restructuring within the player care and performance team. Look, anybody that watches this show, listens to my radio show over the last couple of years, knows that I've been harping on that the Pelicans and Saints have to do something different in terms of, again, preparing their players for the season, making sure again that if there are injuries that they're using the best practices, not just from the NFL, but from around the world, they get their guys back on the field or on the court quickly. What are they doing again? What are they doing in terms of internally to try to see again, especially with the Pelicans, who brought in Aaron Nelson, who was supposed to be again the guru of trainers. Extended the career of Shaquille O'Neal, Grant Hill. We know the folklore there, but it just hasn't worked out in New Orleans. In New Orleans, again, you've seen the 2 top players for the Pelicans miss a tremendous amount of time, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson. And at some point, there needs to be, again, a look within on what are you doing and how can we change that. Now, I don't know what restructuring means. I don't know if that means Aaron Nelson's out. I don't know if they're looking at another best practices. But there has to be some type of change within, again, how they're handling injuries with both the Saints and Pelicans. You said something interesting yesterday, and I agree 100% with you. This is not always on the teams, also on the players.
Yes, there's a lot there. First off, that article was vague, just in terms of I was waiting to see. Okay, so is Nelson out? Are they moving him? Are they reshuffling? Are they bringing more minds in, more trainers in? Are they reshuffling different? Are they different facility? I have no idea. But I think you had to, if you were the Pelicans, given the year you just had, given where you're currently at, given what you're watching in the NBA Finals tonight, who's available, who has made their way through.
Right.
I think you had to have some kind of adjustment to your health and recovery department, and I think David Griffin, for the most part, has a pretty good sense of optics when it comes to that sort of thing. So they're going to do what they have to do. Again, we'll see what the new shuffling looks like. I know this. He had a stellar reputation before he got here. Now all of a sudden, it hasn't worked. So whatever. But I also think this is your last chance now to pinpoint a problem within the organization that does not include the player. Because right now, you have a couple of guys, very young, who I think they're a professional, but I don't think they've done quite everything to be a professional. You have one guy who is a very thin guy. You have another guy who is a very big guy who has a very unique body for the NBA. Right. At this point, they should know their bodies and they should understand what they can and cannot do to give themselves the best possible opportunity to stay healthy and manage the rigors of an NBA season. Both guys, whether it's Ingram or Zion. I'm not sure that's happened with either guy. And it has impacted wins and losses. Eric, I was thinking about this. Is there a team and or fan base that, I guess, I don't want to say celebrates, but thinks about the hypothetical version of themselves more than the Pelicans? Oh, if they're injured, once we get all healthy, everything's gonna be fine. Well, at some point, this is the reality.
Exactly.
So any future plan with this organization, with this roster, with these players, has to include, factored in, you're going to have X amount of games missed by your top stars.
Right. I agree, 100%. It's how and it's tough when you don't want to be a taxpayer in the NBA to do that, because you need that you almost need a third superstar, because that again, and maybe I'm being a little bit easy on them here, that these guys are going to miss a quarter of the season each. Might miss a half a season.
At best.
Okay? All right, so you have to account for that. And when you lose a player like that, how are you again backfilling that? And for a team that doesn't want to pay the luxury tax, how does that work? Look, I think C.J. McCollum said it all in his year-end press conference.
That was it.
There was immaturity on this team. The rumors have been rampant in this city for a long time about what's going on again with some of the young players, who are stars on this team, and what they should be doing to be able to take care of their bodies, make sure again that they're focused on the task at hand, focused on the season. For Zion Williamson to be in the great shape he came in to get injured and then to blow up and out of shape like he was, so he wasn't able to come back once again another season to be able to make a playoff run. Again, that is unacceptable.
No, and you're past the point of, he's young now. I mean, this is a guy who's been in the spotlight for a long time.
He's making $33 million this year.
Fourth or fifth year in the NBA. Like, come on now. It is time. And I think you're kind of sensing I'll say it, frustration in the organization.
Right, yes.
Because there has to be a give and a take. And now you're in a situation where you're forced to do stuff like this because of what's happening with your star players, but you're running out of options at this point. Because I'm sorry, like this Aaron Nelson guy had, like I said before, had a stellar reputation before he got here. So now all of a sudden you know what he's doing?
Right.
So I just think players have got to take ownership of this. There has to be an ownership buy-in from the players, that it's not just about buckets. It's not just about highlights.
Right.
It is about being a pro and all the things that come with being a pro. That includes maintaining your health, and when you are dinged up, learning how to manage through that as well. Because, Eric, with the Pelicans, it's such. Here I go talking hypotheticals again. How far would they have gone in this playoffs with everyone? That's a legitimate question.
Yeah, it's legitimate. No.
How far would they have gone?
Look how they were playing in December. Okay, when they had everybody except for Brandon Ingram, right? With Zion at an all-star level, and I realized, look, the NBA doesn't get cranked up until after the all-star break, right? Okay, so you can be a world beater in in December, January, November, December, and January. But if you're not in February, March, and April, you're done. Right. So what could have been, but.
I'm not sure the rosters currently constructed would have made it because they need some things.
They need. Look, I've said it before. Dogs with rings. Okay, they need some tough guys. This is a soft team. Okay, and then they need guys that have won championships, that know what it means to win a champion. Not a guy on the bench that might have won championships and can. I think McCullum's done all he can in his power to help these guys grow up. But maybe you need some jewelry around that place to be able to maybe get people's attention. Another thing is, and this is a theory of mine with Aaron Nelson. Aaron Nelson was great with older players.
That's another thing.
Okay, right. Because he allowed them to rest and to be able to get to be able to extend their career.
That's true. Yeah.
Here in New Orleans, I don't know if you need to be resting, giving these players the length of time to be out.
And honestly, that's probably what you're seeing right now.
Right.
It's probably okay. Let's try this little tweak in philosophy here and see if that produces, and if not, then we got to make some other arrangements that include the players.
14th overall pick. I think Miami is living proof that you can get players anywhere. And for people to think that that 14th overall pick is a throwaway pick, I think you're really missing the boat on this. The Pelicans need athletic bigs. They need guys that can knock down three-point shots. You can definitely find players in this draft where they can knock down three-point shots. So to me, the 14th pick is valuable.
It is, but if I can get a three-point shooter that's a little more veteran, I would do it.
Okay.
So I'm fine either way, but I don't want to hear anything about rim protection. I don't want to hear anything about. They need a shooter. They're not winning. They're not. Look at the NBA. They're not doing anything without a shooter. They need. The NBA's game today, you need a shooter, a guy. The first thing on their scouting report says three-point shooter. That's what you need, and they've needed it all year. I think it showed itself up towards towards the end of the season. And now that I've really paid close attention to these playoffs, I mean, it's everywhere you look. If you don't have a shooter, you're not. If you cannot knock down the three, you are not winning.
It's a different game.
You are not winning. You got to put up 120 a night to win in the NBA.
It is.
Now.
It is a three-point shooting league now. It's not a physical league anymore. The Pelicans have a throwback center, but they need guys that can shoot. The debate has been, should Willie Green have a former head coach as his number 2 on the bench?
I think that'd be great. I mean, a guy's been through a lot. A guy that can maybe see things a little clearer. A guy that maybe has had a little more experience. A guy that can maybe, hey, if I were you, I'd try this right here. Not in an overbearing way. Just say, hey, that situation there, you really need to look at this.
D'Antoni was a consultant, but he was never here.
I think that would work. If for no other reason, just a legitimate sounding board for a guy that's still finding his way as a head coach. I thought there were some moments he was good last year, but I thought there were some moments where he looked like a young head coach that didn't quite know all the ins and outs of what he was doing.
You and I are on the same page. By the way, congratulations to Monty Williams, who will not be the number 2, as I said, here in New Orleans, signing with Detroit as their head coach. 5 years, $75 million, with a chance to be able to go 7 years and $100 million. He is going to be the highest paid head coach in the NBA.
Good for him. That's a great guy.
He is.
Great guy.
Yes, and a really good coach. Let's switch gears to, which is again big in this time of year here in Louisiana, and that's college baseball. And some surprises and some expectations here when you look at the regionals. Let's start again with the Baton Rouge Regional, which includes LSU as the number 1 seed taking on the 4th seed Tulane. Tulane 19-40 on the season, the regular season. That is a 2 o'clock first pitch on ESPNU on Friday afternoon from the box. This has been the talk of the town with again Tulane lifting themselves up from the ashes in the American Athletic Conference tournament to win. And you and I talked about it yesterday on the radio show. It's almost like March Madness in basketball, where again you get that upset, and then that Cinderella team goes to the tournament. Well, in this field of 64, it's Tulane.
Really is, and man, when I tell you this was so far off our radar, I mean, we just figured it was just a formality.
Right.
They'll go play their 2 games in the conference tournament and be done. And then all of a sudden, we're watching the game in the office. Was it Wednesday or Thursday last week? We look up, home run. Look up, home run. Like, Tulane's going to win this first game here. And all of a sudden, they make this improbable run. It just truly is. It ain't over till it's over. So, man, it just, I mean, like I said, like I told you on a radio show, I talked to a Tulane guy through and through, and they straight up told me this was one of the worst teams ever. This is one of the worst teams ever. They didn't win a series, a single weekend series in the month of May. I mean, that's how poor they were. And we talked to Coach Ullman on Wednesday, and you can feel the relief on his face.
Of course.
The relief around him. I went and talked to him before they played LSU earlier in the season.
It was in April.
And I mean, like the way he was answering questions, you could tell it was really eating him up because he was in a tough situation, a bad situation. And when you're losing like that, it is so hard to keep things going and keep the faith, to do whatever they have to do and keep winning. But I also recall Jay Johnson saying at the time, I don't know what their record was. It was like 7-20, whatever it was, and he said maybe that's the best 7-20 team I've ever seen, or something like that.
Yeah.
Because they felt like Tulane had some talent. So who knows? If you're Tulane, you're on a little hot streak here. You go out, you got a little house money. You're playing with nothing to lose. Cut it loose, let it rip, and see where the chips fall. I mean, look, the team up in Baton Rouge, LSU, has. They're expected to win, and they've been a little bumpy on the way into regionals. And where Tulane is flying high after one of the most improbable, miraculous runs we've ever seen.
Leads me to my segue to my next question. If you are Jay Johnson, are you pitching Skeens against Tulane, or are you letting him go in Game 2, maybe against Oregon State or Sam Houston?
Has the official release come out yet? I'm not sure if he's made it. So for the sake of this question, we'll just assume it has not been.
You're taking a chance here now.
Maneri would have waited, would have held his ace back.
Right.
Maneri would have held his ace back. I understand, though, if you're Jay Johnson, you want to set a tone early in this thing. We are here. We're not playing around. And are you playing around if you tinker the rotation for the first game against a rival? This is not just a regular 4 seed. No. This is a rival who's got some momentum here. So I think I told you on the radio I would hold it, but I think I might have flipped. I think I might start him against Tulane. Yeah.
I'm starting on Friday, pardon me. Yeah. All right, Lexington Regional, which is again where the LSU is the LSU Regional is tied into Baton Rouge Regional. If LSU is to win the Super Regional, they will host the winner of the Lexington Regional. We've got the Tuscaloosa Regional, where again Alabama will take on Nichols. Nichols, a big story this year, winning the Southland.
Fantastic. From where that program was to where they currently are, fantastic season, fantastic run to conference. And, I've said this before because we've seen a lot of these little programs grow. Delgado, not grow, they've been at the top. Delgado, LSU, UL. Tulane's been up and down, but Tulane certainly made their mark in college baseball. SLU, this year, obviously not with the exception of this year, has really grown. Nichols has kind of been the forgotten program. Now all of a sudden, a little bit of a comeback, a little bit of a push down on the Bayou.
They won 40 games in that regular season, man.
They were a really good football baseball team.
Right.
So, and a conference that's has a lot of quality baseball in it.
Right.
So against some quality teams that we know well, UNO, another one. So good for I spent some time early in my career down on the Bayou at home. Great people, fantastic people. They love Nichols, whether it's football, basketball, or baseball. So good for those guys to get a chance, not just to make a regional, but a nice little trip to Tuscaloosa and see what happens.
The team that won 40 games is ULL.
Yeah, right.
They are the 3 seed in the Coral Gables Regional. They're taking on Texas, the 2 seed. Your thoughts?
Glad they got in. I know it was a little. I know that it was.
But that was deserving.
But to me, that getting in as an at-large to me shows where they've grown as a program. So we'll see what happens with them. But I mean, look, that's a team in that regional.
Right.
Like, if you're Miami, you better watch out for UL, because I think that's a program that always punches above its weight class.
I agree. I want to congratulate Joe Sherman and the Delgado Dolphins getting to the Junior College World Series. They were ousted by the #1 team, Central Florida, a couple days back. Just a great run for a great program. And I say it all the time. If you are a high school kid in this region and you can't make a Division I team and you really want to play baseball, you go to Delgado, okay?
Yeah.
Because he is getting guys into Division I. He's getting guys, again, ready for the pros. You learn the next level of baseball at Delgado with Joe Sherman.
Yeah, and you can't always take everyone, and,
Right.
the good thing is when you go to a program like that, you're going to come out getting better. You're going to come out getting
Right.
better. You're going to be a better baseball player,
Right.
which makes you more attractive to a bigger program, wherever that may be. I know LSU, Paul Maneri used to love drawing from the Delgado farm system, if you will.
Yes, it will.
So, yeah, that's always been, and the Shermans have been just synonymous with that program for so long,
Right.
so many decades, and it's good to see. They always seem to be there when you get to World Series.
And look,
time.
junior college baseball in Louisiana is good. LSU Eunice is good. Nunez is putting on a really good program now. So it's just not Delgado like it used to be. Again, they're dealing with other programs in the state that are pretty good. Baton Rouge Community College is another one that's pretty good up there. We have a question from a viewer. Wants to know your thoughts on DeAndre Hopkins and the Saints are interested.
I have not heard that. Again, they are willing to do any and everything to make the organization better, to make their team better. I have not heard that yet, but it's a little bit of they got quite a few bodies in the wide receiver room. But if they decide to go that route, I wouldn't be against it. I mean, I don't know what it would cost, and I don't know where I don't know where it would be, but I wouldn't be against it. I just haven't heard that yet.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's talk LSU and Tulane football before we get out of here. First of all, Tulane hiring Greg McMahon as their special teams coordinator. Your thoughts?
Well, he's been around for a long time. First the Saints, then LSU. Helped the Saints when it came to the Super Bowl. Helped LSU when it came to the Natty back in 2019. So he's a guy that certainly understands what he's doing, knows what he's doing. I thought he was going to retire, but he got the call to come coach special teams for Coach Willie Fritz. It's a great hire.
Who is a special teams guy himself.
He's a special teams guy, and the thing with McMahon is he knows exactly who he is. He is a special teams guy, and I think Tulane it still baffles me how much that gets neglected in college football. It really does.
Right.
And I understand why some programs don't have quite the resources, and maybe it's you're an O-line coach / special teams coach, but this is all special teams when it comes to Greg McMahon.
Summer practice for LSU is beginning now. This is a big. I talk about team building in terms of, again, the pros. This is where you build your team also, again, with these off-season workly in the collegiate game.
Yeah, it's the time, and they're all there. The recruits are all there, and the ones that didn't do the early enrollee, they're there. Certainly, you spend a lot of time in strength conditioning in the weight room around this time, getting better. And look, honestly, you do it down here. You're dealing with the June Louisiana heat.
Yep.
You just feel like you're battling.
Right.
You just feel like you're battling. And LSU's got a lot coming back. I went through the roster yesterday, as a matter of fact. I wrote down the depth chart. I was like, okay, the expectations are real and deservedly so. This is where it all starts.
And it starts with Brian Kelly, and of course his imprint on this program now. And I love the fact that, again, that he has not shied away from taking on all comers. Big discussion right now, the SEC meetings in Destin, on whether they're going to go with a 9-game schedule, conference schedule, an 8-game conference schedule. So when Oklahoma and Texas join the SEC in 2024, there are some of the hurdles. Is again the contract with ESPN and the SEC. The SEC wants more money, okay, because of those two big programs coming in. The obligations on some schools to buy out again out of conference games. Their schedule, the buyouts there. I think that's a lot of hyperbole at this point. Again, teams buy out other teams all the time to change their schedules to get a better draw on their schedule. So I don't know how that situation is. And then of course, if it also has something to do again with the 12-team playoff that'll be kicking in about that time. LSU's common yearly opponents with a 9-game schedule. The proposal is Alabama, Ole Miss, A&M. Your thoughts on it? I like the 9-game schedule.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
I like it, but I'm also, look, I've only been around college football. It's all about dollars and cents.
It's all.
If it's a net positive, they're going to do it. But I understand this. I guess this first year, it may not be the case with the 9-game schedule. Are you paying out? Are you buying out a home and home with a bigger opponent, and then are you making quite as much money by adding the 9? That's what it really all boils down to.
Right.
Really, I personally love it because I always think you know, the out-of-conference schedule can sometimes be. I mean, you'll like LSU was Florida State this year, but it's not always. It's not always.
But don't you need cupcakes? I mean, you need a couple of good games where, especially in a brutal SEC.
You do.
Okay.
But do you need 3, 4? How many do you need?
No, right. And you also want to play maybe that big game, right, to open up the season, like LSU's doing.
Honestly, I would rather the cupcake come before, to be honest with you, because I think that game against Florida State would have went a little different way had they had the cupcake game before that.
Yes.
But nonetheless, I would be all for a 9-game SEC, 12-game total schedule with, your whatever rent-or-win type game you have earlier in the season or later in the season, whatever the case may be. I know there's a couple other schools like Georgia Tech or South Carolina Clemson. Like it's not all like. It can't just be all SEC.
Like it used to be with LSU Tulane.
Like, bring that game back, but it'd be great. But I understand it's not as easy. Let's just do it. Because, there are different traditions within each institution. And then you talked about bringing in Texas and Oklahoma. They're going to have their own sort of traditions as well. So I do think at some point it will get there. If it's only 1 year with 8, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to freak out over that.
All right. And by the way, this is huge for Tulane as well. Tulane continues to ascend with their football program and their other athletic programs. They'll be in the next mix of conference realignment. I don't think there's any doubt that they'll be in the next. There'll be another conference that will invite Tulane in.
And that, my friend, would be the game changer they have been waiting for a long,
since they left the SEC.
long time. If they were able to manage to get themselves into a bigger conference like that, that would be. The game will officially be changed. For Tulane football.
All right, we got a minute left. NBA Finals tonight, Denver versus the Heat. Your thoughts?
Well, this is the game I feel like this Heat might be able to steal just because a little bit of momentum, momentum. They've been playing for a while, and sometimes if there is a game, and it was a 7-game series and a sweep, so they've been off, a week and a half, and you know how that is, getting that first game back, you kind of get the lungs back a little bit, and maybe if there is a game to steal, I think this could be the one for Miami, but I think ultimately Denver's the better team. They have the best player. Their offense is so skilled around that best player. And I've always said I love building an offense through a passing big man. That's exactly what they have. He's one of the best passing big men we've seen in 20-plus years. Have great shooters around him. And although I love the way Miami has constructed that team and how they've been able to – that's not a roster you would construct in any other way, any other organization, but it works for them. I think they put up a battle, but I think it's Denver in 6.
Right. I'm taking Denver in 6, but I'm going to tell you right now, I would be close to saying Denver in 7. I just think Miami is they are tenacious, and they're going to give Denver everything they can handle in this series. But we'll see how it plays out. Sean, as always, thanks so much for being with us.
Good stuff.
We appreciate you every Wednesday being with us on radio, and, of course, joining us at least once every 4 to 6 weeks here on the show.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there are many, many ways to be able to catch our program now. Again, there's a QR code on your screen. Just click on the QR code. It'll take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube page or to my website. And then, look, choose your favorite time slot and set your DVR. You'll never miss the program that way. Also, again, you catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM Nash Icon. That is 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com, the Nash Icon website. Also, our digital platforms, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, Spotify, Apple as the home base for our podcast. We're on all podcasting platforms. Just search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. Also want to thank the underwriters who make this show possible. Please support our underwriters, each and every one of those. We appreciate each and every one, and we appreciate you guys supporting the underwriters as well. Also want to thank the staff here at WLAE-TV who do a great job. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, also Alex Chacon, and also we got some interns that are in the building as well. Jonathan Whitehead, Danielle Wick, all part of, again, our program, and, of course, our fantastic director, William Hill. For Sean Fazende, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.